Hey everyone and welcome to the video. So today I want to talk about Dead Island 2 versus Dying Light 2, a rivalry that's going to be fantastic to watch unfold. Now, I'm not usually the type of guy that likes to put games against each other, the whole Saints Row versus GTA, the whole Call of Duty versus Battlefield. That stuff's always been kind of lame to me, but these are two different IPs practically made by the same guys. Now, obviously, Dead Island 2 is made by a completely different team, but the Dead Island IP was Techland's IP, and Techland then are making Dying Light, so their old IP are coming back to bite them, basically. And with Dying Light 2 not being everyone's favourite zombie game in the world, in fact being what some people would call a bit of a letdown, it's interesting to see this rivalry unfold. So I want to talk about that and really talk about how crazy this is going to be, because I think it's going to be absolutely insane. So let's go over the brief history real quick. So Techland developed Dying Light as well as Dead Island 1 and Dead Island Riptide. Now, whilst going on the Dead Island sort of phase of their development, they were under Deep Silver, and whilst developing Dead Island 2, the game that's now finally coming out 10 years past announcement, sadly they were moved away because they weren't making the game that Deep Silver wanted. That game eventually went on to be Dying Light 1. So in a way, Dying Light 1 is kind of like a scrapped Dead Island 2. I'm sure the concepts are very different, but the point being is that Dying Light 1 would not exist if it wasn't for the fact that Dead Island 2 was kind of canned by Deep Silver. Now, Deep Silver went on to hire many different teams and got rid of different teams, and it basically got stuck in dev hell, and Dead Island 2 became a bit of a money pit. But now, 10 years later, Dead Island 2 is finally coming out. April. So, Techland's old game, a game they left in the dust for over a decade, is finally coming back. And that shit is gonna be insane to watch. So, as we all know as well, Dead Island 2 is pretty anticipated. It was a game that was announced like a decade ago and had a ton of buzz around it at the time. It had some really good marketing, but unfortunately just never came out. When Dying Light 2 came out, a lot of people were really disappointed with that game, which really leaves Dead Island 2, that's now finally coming out, the perfect market to breach into. Now, the reason I think the stakes are so high, and this is why I think it's kind of crazy to even think about this, is because of Dying Light 2's fault and the fact that people just aren't playing it that much. Now, I don't have a problem with Dying Light 2, just to throw it out there, but people aren't playing it that much due to just not enjoying it as much as the original Dying Light. This is the perfect time for Dead Island 2 to come out and swipe that market. If Dead Island 2 is good, like really good, it is just going to nab all of Dying Light 2's players, because the games are really similar. Obviously, they were made by the same people practically, or you know what I mean, the IPs were. So the games are so similar that it can easily nab Dying Light's players. Basically, if Dead Island 2 becomes a masterpiece, or at least a really good game, it will spell the end of Dying Light as we see it. Now, I don't think Dying Light will be canned or gone. I mean, it will still have its fan base, but if there is a number one competitor, being your old IP, coming back to bite you and stealing your players, that is going to be insane to watch unfold. It's just crazy to me. So, the stakes are very high on Deep Silver's end here. Dambuster have an immeasurable weight of responsibility on their shoulders with Dead Island 2. I can't wait to see how this game comes out, and all I'm thinking is, if this game comes out and it is the zombie game of the year, it is the best zombie game we've seen in the past decade. It gets, raving reviews. Think about how Techland's going to be, because right now, I think it's not a bold statement to say that when it comes to at least console, Dying Light is the best zombie game out there. Now, whilst I always preferred Dead Island, I prefer Dead Island 1, mainly due to it just being my style of zombie game a bit more than Dying Light. Dying Light takes itself a bit too serious for me. I think it's very important to just look at it and go like, Dying Light is very successful. It is the zombie game of the people. It is the people's choice for zombie game, whether you love it or hate it. Same with 2. Even though 2 may not be as favourable, people still liked it, and it is still the number one, in my opinion, zombie game out there for at least console players. Excluding things like Left 4 Dead and stuff. So, if Dead Island 2 comes out, and it knocks off that spot, who is it going to be competing with? I don't see much of a competition at all, to be honest. If Dying Light gets knocked out as the number one zombie game for most people, and Dead Island 2 kind of sweeps in, it's going to be very hard for Techland to prove, because I feel at that point, Techland will basically have their next game to prove that they're still the number one zombie game, or Dead Island can basically just wipe the floor with them. You know, Dead Island was their first project. It was their first big into the gaming industry, and it was what gave them their name. Now, whilst Dying Light was by far more successful, Dead Island was really successful in its own way, and if this series comes back to bite them in the ass, it will make history for gaming. Like, it will be insane. So the point I'm making is, right now it is the calm before the storm, because when Dead Island 2 releases, it will literally be make or break it for the zombie gaming industry, because one of these top goats, so to speak, is going to win, and I don't know who it's going to be. Now, as I've said before, I've always preferred the Dead Island games, but the Dead Island games are made by Techland, so I don't know how this new one's going to turn out, but it looks very good. So, I don't know. I'm scared, man. It's going to be insane, though. I can't wait. So, I guess all that's left to do is wait. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this little rivalry. It is going to be a zombie game battle for the ages. I can't believe it. It's going to be unreal. But I'll be definitely covering Dead Island 2 on its launch. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.